Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. And I haven't seen these in a while. I've been working on the train game again. And by working on it, I don't mean that I've been playtesting it or that I've been looking at the components. In fact, I just took this out of the bag just now to illustrate to you that I'm working on the train game. But I haven't done any actual work on it. It's just been in my head. And I've been working on this particular game in my head because I feel like this one's the closest to what it's supposed to be. Or this one has the... This one is the most frustrating for me of the prototypes that I currently have that are unpublished. It's the most frustrating because it, at its core, was the simplest idea. The idea was a train game on a hex grid that's driven by a deck of cards, and the deck of cards determines how you place trains on the hex grid. That was the premise. Play a card, do what it says. And I think there's still potential there. I think this was fun. And the reason that I'm super frustrated by it is because the first time we played it, we enjoyed it. And by we, I mean Em and I. We played it, we thought, this is cool. You play things and you make the things. But the more I played it and the more I worked on it, the more I realized I didn't like it. And I didn't like it because there's a whole bunch of stuff on the map that you have to avoid, like a normal train game. There's stocks that don't make a whole lot of sense in two-player. There's just a whole bunch of reasons why, as a two-player game, it gets really frustrating. But the whole premise was a train game for two players and these cards. Let's go from there. And so the entire time I've been working on it, I've been sticking to this stock mechanic that doesn't quite work. It almost works, but not quite. I've been messing with this commodities market to try to make train building a little bit more interesting, which I think it does. It gives reasons to do things outside of boost your own stocks, because this commodities market can be very volatile. I've been trying to figure out ways to incorporate more earning into the game, because ultimately, money, pay, whatever. The point is, I've not quite figured it out, but I feel like it's the thing that should just work, and it doesn't. It doesn't just work. I'm not happy with it. But I've hit a few strides over the past few days with some people online helping, with just the thoughts that I've been carrying around for a while. I really think that I have something to shoot for, and that is I'm going to disconnect stocks from trains, which is a very common thing in train games in particular. In this game, you took a stock, and then that was the train that you had. That was the company that you had to build for that round. That's also semi-common in the train game world. But what's more common is you take a stock, and then you build trains for any company in which you own stock. And so that allows you to really kind of go with one train company. And I eschewed that for this game for some reason. I'm not really sure why. I thought it would make more interesting decisions, and as it turns out, it kind of just makes some things a little bit more frustrating than it should be. And so I think what I have decided to do is to completely remove stocks from affecting the board in any way, shape, or form, and stocks are just going to be a collection item. They're just going to be something that you collect, and if you build out that stocks network well enough, you'll collect a bonus. Or if that's not necessarily you, but you're going to have, so basically each turn, players will have the ability to gather stock but it's going to be not necessarily a random stock, but it's going to be a limited selection, and the other player won't know what's in your portfolio. They'll know what's in their portfolio, and they'll know what's been discarded, and so they'll have an idea of what's in your portfolio, but they won't know it. And I think that's going to make a much more interesting game for two players. So now I need to recreate it. I need to I have various iterations of these stocks. I think I need to scrap this completely and start over because I'm going to need more cards. There's a whole bunch in here that needs to go away while I'm playtesting that portion of the game. But I think what I have done is I have created a system that is slightly more convoluted than it needs to be so that I could add interest to the game while ignoring the principal problem, which is I wanted to have a game that feels like a train game, that feels like a stock manipulation, route building train game, but plays for two. And in a two-player train game, if we're just talking about a two-player stock market game, that's just a zero-sum game, right? If I gain something, you have lost something, and that's not exciting. It could be to some people, I guess, as long as my gains are more than your losses overall, I win, yay. But it's also kind of just boring, right? And I don't want that. I want it to be more exciting than I gain a share, which means you lose the opportunity to gain that share. That's not really fun for me. And I've been searching for the answer. And I think the answer is shares are just hidden information. Like, almost like drafting, almost like trick taking or something. Like, I know what's in my hand of shares, you don't. You have some information that can help you figure out what's in my shares, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's in my shares. And I think that will make things a good bit more exciting. So we'll see. I'm going to play with the idea a little bit more and maybe playtest it soon. And if all goes well, take it to Gen Con with me and see if I can get friends to playtest. I still, the other two big prototypes that I have are the infrastructure-based, like city infrastructure game. I love that game, and I think it's done. I'm calling it done for me, but I don't know that I'm ever going to find a publisher for it. Fine, it's a prototype that exists. The Viking game, I think I know how I'm going to slash that apart. I've just been too scared to do it, or too intimidated by it, or too something that I haven't touched it yet. But this one, I think I can fix it up and at least start playtesting it again. So we're going to try that and see what happens. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends, wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is monastic and is an adjective meaning relating to the practice of withdrawing from society to live a quiet, contemplative life, often dedicated to religious faith. Saint Pachomius? I don't know. Founded the first organized Christian monastic community. Monastic, M-O-N-A-S-T-I-C. So it doesn't necessarily mean living in a monastery. I always thought that it meant more like monastery life.